Oh, lick my plate, you dog dick! Alright guys, welcome back to Days of Darkness and welcome to my review of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. This one came out in 1986. It is starring Caroline Williams, Dennis Hopper, and Bill Moseley, and was directed by Tobe Hooper. Whew. So, I hinted at it on my last review that this movie is fucking bonkers, man. This movie is just insane. I hadn't seen it in a really long time, and going in on this go around, I knew what this movie was, but I still managed to be surprised by just how much this movie is. Like, this fucking, it's just, I think it might be the most contrasting sequel of all time, because you have the original that's so just drenched in dread, and it's dirty and it's bloody and it's just it's a fucking bummer to watch. It's a great film, but it's a rough watch for sure, especially upon someone's first viewing. And then you get to this one, which granted, the first one came out in 74, this one came out in 86, so the times were way different as far as like horror movies and stuff, but you get to this one, man, and it's just like, what the fuck happened? I'm sure everyone's curious about, before we really dive into things, of how I feel about this movie in general. And it basically comes down to this. As a follow-up to what, in my opinion, is a horror masterpiece in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, as a follow-up to that film, I think this movie's dog shit. It is such a piss-poor follow-up as far as tone and just, which is crazy to me because this is the same director. You know, Tobe Hooper, man. And I know I mentioned this in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre review, but I know that he had an intention of having some comedic elements in the first film, which I don't gather at all, besides like a little bit of dry, dark humor here and there. There's really nothing. And then I guess he saw the response that movie got, and he's like, no, I really want some comedic elements in here. And he just fucking went balls to the wall on this one, dude. This film is thought of in a lot of circles as a horror comedy because it's so fucking outrageous and just crazy. But as a follow-up to that original movie, I do not think it stacks up whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. There's nothing about this film that even closely resembles the first one. Obviously, the story and continuity is maintained somewhat. You know, obviously we have Chop Top. Well, not Chop Top, but we have Leatherface and Chop Top actually carrying around the flattened dead body of the hitchhiker who, died in the first one. But they're still carrying him around. They like to carry around their dead family members. We see that with the grandma in the first one, and she appears here as well. But beyond pretty okay continuity, there's nothing about this that resembles the first film at fucking all. However, if we're looking at it from the perspective of I want to sit down, turn my brain off, and just see a fucking crazy movie. Like, that's how I would describe this movie. It's fucking crazy. This is one that, I wouldn't think twice on putting on at like a Halloween party or something, because the audience that you're gonna have, they're gonna dog the movies, so you don't want to put on one that's too close to the heart. So you want to, and I could easily take on Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and I think a party setting, people would have a blast with it. I think this movie is, I won't say it's not entertaining. I think of this one on the same sort of scale as like a Jason Goes to Hell. As far as, is it a good franchise movie? No. But is it just fucking amazingly entertaining and bonkers and crazy? Yeah, it's fucking wild, man. I really, really dig this one if we're looking at it from that perspective. But as far as like marathoning these movies, I mean, we'll see as time goes on. This franchise goes all over the place with 3 and 4, yada yada yada. But yeah, man, I wouldn't necessarily do this as a double feature with the original. But anyways, let's get right into it. So, as I just said, I don't think as a follow-up, it's a great movie. However, I think the overall premise here is really solid. And if you were to give me the reins and say, Alex, make a Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequel, as far as the overall idea, this is probably where I would go. Logically, I think this makes sense. You know, after Sally Hardesty got out of the original alive, but mentally it was very clear that she's not going to be the same ever again, and it's established in this one, in the opening crawl, that she's catatonic, that she just eventually over time just shut down. And that makes sense, you know, after you go through a hell like that, yeah, it makes sense that she would just no longer be, she's alive, but not really, you know. Very dark ending to that character, which I think immediately gets wiped away in like one of the other ones. But for now, I think that really makes sense. Also, while we're talking about a follow-up, it would make a lot of sense that once she escaped, she would obviously tell someone about what happened to her. Ergo, the Sawyers need a new place to live because they can't run their operation out of that house anymore. That thing's done for. You're done. You need to leave. And I like that they pick up somewhere else. We'll talk about where they go. The fact that I think it's just fucking ridiculous. But it makes for a fun finale. But yeah, I think you guys get what I'm saying. There are some really, really cool ideas presented here. But as I've said before, the execution of those ideas is batshit fucking insane. And that's kind of where the movie does lose me. I can watch it as a fun little side horror movie. And there are aspects of this movie that I do adore quite a bit. But this movie is drenched with 80s fucking cheese. We'll talk about Leatherface for a second. We get introduced to the Sawyer boys. They are these shithead kids call into a radio show that is hosted by Stretch, who is our final girl. And the Sawyer boys catch up to these guys who are just... Honestly, it's hard for me to feel bad for them because they're being fucking dickheads. Like, they're fucking up, you know, Stretch's show, and they're harassing people on the road and shit. They're just being fucking general college kid degenerates. Of which I was one at one point, so I can't really judge too much, but, I mean, these guys are fucking awful. Like, I was a little obnoxious, but these guys are fucking terrible. Anyways, but yeah, so the Sawyers do eventually catch up to them, and, they fuck those kids up. Like, I love the little detail of, after a while, one of the kids gets sick of it, and he comes out of the sunroof, and he tries to blow away Leatherface, who has the dead body of the hitchhiker strapped to his stomach, which I thought was a cool detail. I like that they brought that character back, even though he's just a fucking dead puppet. And he's in this movie pretty much the entire time, you know, until the end where the hideout gets blown up. He's in it for like basically the entire thing. He's a corpse, but it's cool to see him back. But yeah, man, so he blows away the head of the hitchhiker to reveal Leatherface. And, yeah, man, let's talk about Leatherface. So, hokey, man. Fucking completely, it goes back, you know, the 80s cheese thing, man. I think they took the idea of him being mentally incapable of taking care of himself and providing for himself, and him having to rely on his brothers. They took that very compelling story element with that character and just made him a fucking cartoon. Like, he's a cartoon character, you know? The fucking... Whenever he lifts up his chainsaw and he does this little, like, dance and shit, and he does it, like, 15 times in the fucking movie, and he's an overall... Like, they play him as a dunce. And I don't think that's the way you should... Albeit it's not the most tasteful thing in the world, but that's neither here nor there. Beyond that, it's just... He's not scary. Like, they totally cut off the legs of the Leatherface character. He's just not scary. He's funny. Like, these villains are fucking funny. And while, yeah, I can sit back and appreciate this movie for being fucking bonkers, like, it's still, like, I would have liked to retain a little bit of that. We'll talk about one thing about the Leatherface character that I think had some potential, but again, gets ruined by this movie's tone. But yeah, so he saws off the top of this kid's fucking dome. And the two kids go careening off the bridge. Obviously, they're still on the phone with Stretch during the radio show, so she hears all of this, and it's broadcast on the radio. She does end up lining up with Lefty, who we'll talk about Lefty here for a second. Fucking crazy. Again, like, you're gonna hear me say that throughout this review. Just, again, I like the idea of a vengeful lieutenant who is, like, looking to, like, I think it's established he's the uncle of Sally and Franklin Hardesty. So when he ends up, when he goes to the chainsaw store, it's just a store that is specifically meant for chainsaws. He goes and he fucking is, like, trying out these different chainsaws and he's swinging them around. And this fucking employee who works at this chainsaw store is, like, just kind of watching him. And he goes and he tests some out on the fucking log, and the cashier or whatever is getting all into it. And he's like, I'm like, what? That whole scene, it's like, what the fuck? Like, it doesn't need to be in the movie at all. It's here, and it's just fucking nuts. And I love it. I hate it all the same. So there's that. Yeah, she ends up linking up with him to help him out with, finding the Sawyer boys, hunting them down. And yeah, they catch wind of it, and they get to the they catch wind of it. Drayton Sawyer, who is now a 2-time chili cook-off champion, and I'll let you guess what the secret ingredient in his fucking chili is. Fucking people. So he ends up he's driving home from this fucking he's driving this van back to his new home, which we will reveal. And I think Leatherface or Chop Top, one of them calls him up, and they lets him hear the footage, or not the footage, the audio. So now they're all pissed, and they end up invading the radio station that Stretch works at, and that's kind of how we get into the plot of the movie. That's the kind of our introduction to all the characters, and now we can really get going with everything. The first thing we really see as far as her realizing something's really, really, really wrong is when she's closing up shop, and we get Chop Top. We get the introduction to Chop Top, who is easily my favorite part of this movie. I fucking love Bill Moseley. I love this character. So yeah, it was easily the thing I was most looking forward to going back and looking at and talking about and stuff like that. And he's in a movie that is absolutely insane. He really does fit in. And I think what makes me like his character significantly more than, like, a Leatherface or a Drayton Sawyer in this one is that, obviously all three are fucking cartoon characters. They're all goofy. They're all silly. Bill Moseley does a good job of having an air of sinisterness? We'll go with it. An air of sinisterness to his performance as Chop Top. And also we're introduced to this character here. He was not in the original. He was, and it's even written into the movie that he was off in Vietnam during the events of the first movie. So he is here now, carrying around the corpse of his dead brother. And yeah, man, he has a plate in his fucking head, hence the term chop top. But he has a plate in his head from an injury he received in Vietnam. And he takes a coat hanger and he lights it up, he heats it up, and he just starts fucking picking at his skin and shit, and he's eating it, and I'm like, oh god, like, he's a fucking Sawyer, there's no doubt about that. He fits in with these guys fucking magnificently. And for a character that I'm pretty sure was just meant to be a replacement for the Hitchhiker, damn, Bill Moseley really does make it his own. And I love this first scene with him and Stretch, where he music is my life, and he's trying to put in requests, and she gives him the shortest tour of this radio station of all time. Tries to get him to leave. We get Leatherface busting out of the fucking door, and he that guy does not know how to fucking use doors. He's chopping up doors in the first one. He's fucking busting through doors. He busts through a wall at one point in this movie, which is crazy. But yeah, man. So obviously when he busts through the wall, he accidentally nails Chop Top with his chainsaw, and the wig that he was wearing gets completely obliterated. And you can see that it kind of smoked up his plate, so his plate's hot. And you hear him go, oh, my brain's burning, my brain is burning. Which I'm like, that sounds funny, but at the same time excruciating. You're like, God, if you fucked up a metal plate in your head and it got all hot, yeah, that would fucking suck. So, dog will hunt, get that bitch, Leatherface. Oh, God, that character is just fucking insane. But yeah, so if he runs off to go get her, and it is established here a little love interest for Leatherface, which, again, this movie is fucking nuts. That's all I can really say. He corners Stretch. At one point, actually, well, no, we'll get to that, but he corners Stretch, and he can see, like, oh, this is this lady's, like, really pretty, he's kind of like enamored by her, and which is crazy because there were plenty of pretty girls in the first one, and he really didn't give a shit about any of them. So I'm not sure what is so great about Stretch. That being said, I think Caroline Williams is fucking gorgeous. I'm not saying that, but for some reason he's just enamored with her, and he starts like kind of thrusting with his chainsaw at her, and it's like she starts like playing along in order to escape. She's like, yeah, how good are you? And he starts like getting more fucking, like, it's just like, what the fuck is happening? He runs. She's wearing these short shorts, not complaining, but she's wearing these cut off shorts, and he's running his chainsaw, like, it's not on or anything, but he's like running his chainsaw like up her thigh to like her crotch, and she's like still playing along. She's like trying to lure this dude in so she can escape, and it's just like, I can't even talk about this scene anymore, man, because it's just so fucking uncomfortable, and I don't know what the fuck they were thinking when they made this movie, but goddamn, there it is. Leatherface, I guess that's just how he views sex or affection, is just, I don't know, it's fucking crazy. But anyways, he ends up running off, and he, I guess he like gets done. I don't know what the fuck happened, but he just starts going crazy, starts fucking sawing the entire radio station apart, and he keeps like looking back at her and thrusting with his chainsaw and shit. I'm like, oh my god. But he eventually comes back, and by this point, LG, who I haven't even talked about LG, but he's another pretty fun character in this. He's Stretch's buddy who runs the radio station with her. And he's always coming on. They were always trying to get a date with her and stuff, and she's constantly rejecting him, which, LG's a cool guy, but he's not a little out of your league, bud. I'm just letting you know. God love you, man, but come on, dude, really? You gotta set your expectations a little lower than that. But anyway, so he comes back to the radio station, and he eventually confronts fucking confronts Chop Top, who kind of looks at him, and you saw it in the intro. We get my favorite line of this entire movie: "Lick my plate, you dog dick!" And as he's like stealing records, Leatherface fucks him up. They beat this man so bad with this hammer. I mean, they are laying these Chop Top is laying these hammer shots into this dude's skull. There's blood all over the place. And you're like, yeah, this dude would be fucking dead. They hit him in the head with this hammer so many fucking times. There's zero way that he is alive. There's just no fucking way. But we do see later on that he is very much alive. I guess Chop Top has the worst hammer shot in horror movie history, because he hits this dude, I think, like 15 or 16 times with his hammer. And, you know, he's knocked out, obviously, and there's blood all over the fucking place. But he's not dead. Okay. But yeah, man, so they eventually... they eventually take... Leatherface spares Stretch's life, because he's in love with her, basically, now. So he stretches her life, and she, Chop Top even says, like, "Yo, did you get her?" And he lies blatantly. He's like, Yeah, so they run off, and Stretch is just kind of standing there, and then we get the reveal of their hideout, and that is, they have gone from the Sawyer family home to the Texas Battlelands. Battlelands? Yes, Battlelands. The Texas Battlelands, which is basically this abandoned amusement park, and they kind of operate under that. Now, I understand that this movie is fucking crazy, and it's nuts, and it's not really necessarily meant to be taken seriously. But come the fuck on, man. I get it, it's an abandoned amusement park, but you're telling me that there aren't people who are scoping out that area for maybe... like another project, maybe they're going to build a new amusement park, something like that. There's no way that these guys are detected at all. I mean, I get it if it's a little small operations, but they have renovated this entire fucking place, and there's I just don't understand, man. They have the dead corpse of Grandma up in like the top peak of the fucking amusement park, I guess, as like an ode or a tribute to her, which is, you know, it's sweet, but it's stupid at the same time. It's like, there's no way. And we see when Lefty gets there with his fucking dual-wielding chainsaws. Stupid. But he ends up, he gets there, and there's fucking lights everywhere, and it's so grandiose. He makes his way into that lair, and he sees like blood kind of leaking out of one of the walls, and he kicks the wall, and all of these blood and these guts just start spewing out of this fucking wall like a fucking spigot. It just starts. I'm like, you know, the smell that would be irradiating from that place would be too much to just not look into, you know? And maybe you can say, hey, maybe anyone who came there, they just killed them and ate them. Sure, fine, whatever. But it's just so hokey and outrageous, and it's not a scary, weird environment. It's just, I don't know, it's a far cry from the original. And I just don't like it. I really wasn't into it. But it makes for a fun finale, so... Stretch makes her way there alongside Lefty. She ends up getting captured by the, I almost called them the Hillikers. That's the wrong franchise. The Sawyers. She gets captured by the Sawyer family, and she, we get a pretty, well, first of all, we'll get to the poor man's dinner scene here in a second. But we get the scene where LG finally fucking dies. Basically what happens is she sneaks in, she sees Leatherface, who cuts off a piece, he cuts off this leg skin of LG, and LG's unconscious for all this. He's not awake. Because we're under the impression that he's fucking dead. And, but he cuts off his, like, the skin on his leg. He fillets, like, the skin off of his chest. I think off of one of his arms, or like the skin on his arm is completely gone. And then he finally cuts off the face and the better half of his scalp. And all of which you don't really see in too graphic detail or anything, but you see him like hold the face like up like this. And yeah, it's LG's face, and he just hangs it on this fucking hanger. He hangs all these little bits of skin on this fucking hanger. Which I guess it was cool to see how he goes about, like, kind of stitching these new masks together and stuff like that. But what follows is fucking outrageous. So, number one, Stretch stupidly kind of gives up her position. She, like, trips over something, or and he ends up obviously coming and seeing that it's her, and he's, like, happy. So, as a token of his affection, Leatherface grabs Lefty's face that is freshly cut from his head, and he places it onto Stretch, which I will say is fucking gross. And the special effects in this movie are pretty fucking rad around the table. And this was fucking disgusting. Like, and the sound effects, you get all these gloopy, like, sound effects when he just smushes it on her face. It's like, oh my god. Awesome stuff. But then he even puts LG's hat on her, picks her up, and he starts dancing with her. Which I'm like, it's just so adorably fucking stupid and outrageous, but it's funny. So he's dancing with her, and he does the swing twirl, you know, when the guy, like, holds the girl's arms up and she spins or whatever. And he does that, like, 15 times. Like, he doesn't know when to stop, so he just, like, he just starts spinning her and spinning her and spinning her. It's fucking nuts. But eventually, Chop Top and Drayton Sawyer do catch wind of what is going on. They chase her down, and I will say this was pretty compelling. Leatherface can't kill her. Well, really Drayton is the one who orders Leatherface around, and Drayton's saying, like, kill her, fucking, you know, and he can't fucking do it. He's, like, in love with this woman. And I will say that is a compelling idea to introduce here. It is ruined and matted with complete outrageous horseshit in this movie. But I like the idea of someone being introduced to Leatherface to kind of bring out a different side of him. Because as established in the first one, you know, Leatherface doesn't necessarily enjoy killing. He doesn't really enjoy it. It's not something that's fun for him. He does it because these people that are the only source of his survival are making him do this shit. So it's cool to see someone get introduced who kind of makes him think twice about this stuff. Doesn't really fucking go anywhere because Leatherface ends up dying in this movie. So, but yeah, it was kind of cool. Again, really cool idea. Not the best execution in the world. How good are you? Oh, you're that good? This is fucking nuts. But anyways, they do eventually knock her out, or Drayton knocks her out. Drayton or Chop Top, one of the two. But Leatherface is distraught. He can't believe it. They're eventually going to kill this woman that he's so in love with. But yeah, he ends up, they end up taking her to the table, and then we get the poor man's dinner scene, which was like, you know, we saw it already, man. Why are we doing this? Why are we retreading old ground? I understand wanting to pay tribute to, you know, a classic movie like the original, but to just so blatantly do it, and they even have Grandpa there who's somehow still alive, and way more active than he was in the first film. But he's there and he's fucking trying to, it's the same thing. They hold her over the bucket and he's trying to fucking hammer the back of her head, and he can't do it because he's fucking 100,000 years old. So he can't even hold the fucking hammer and shit. But in this case, Lefty ends up saving the day. And we get, well, first of all, he chainsaws Drayton Sawyer's ass. He chainsaws one of his ass cheeks, and he's hiding under the table. And while what's going on above is going on, you see that he touches his bloody ass and he starts licking it. It's like, what the fuck? But hey, I mean, they like blood, so whatever, I guess. But yeah, man, so he hides under the table, and Leatherface and Lefty have a full-blown chainsaw sword fight. I don't even think I have to get into why that doesn't fucking make any sense. If you clank 2 chainsaws together one time, one of those motherfuckers is going to end up jamming up, because it's a spinning blade. It's not just a still blade. And I'm not a chainsaw expert or anything, but something about that does seem really fucking dumb. But this whole movie's fucking dumb, so whatever. But they have this grandiose chainsaw fencing match, which partially ends with Lefty sinking his chainsaw in the Leatherface's fucking gut. He just rams this chainsaw into his gut, comes out the back, and Leatherface is still coming. He's still trying to fucking kill Lefty with this running chainsaw in his stomach. Bonkers. But he eventually, Drayton Sawyer ends up with a hand grenade, and he's kind of realizing that he's fucked. He's like, this is the end of the road for me, huh? So he has this grenade, and this is the last time we get Jim Siedow in the Texas movies. He doesn't die super recent to this movie, but I think he died in, I don't know the year, but I know he wasn't with us for too much longer after this, so rest in peace, Jim Siedow. But he's hiding under the table, and he fucking realizes, he's like, yeah, I'm boned. So he gets this fucking hand grenade, he pulls the pin, he's just holding it, and he's spouting off on some shit, and somehow one of the chainsaws ends up coming through the top of the table and chainsaws into his fucking head, which was really cool. He drops the grenade, and as Stretch and Chop Top run out of the underground layer of the Texas Badlands, the whole place fucking explodes. So Lefty's dead, Leatherface is dead, Grandpa's dead, finally, and Drayton Sawyer's dead. So kind of shocking that we get Chop Top as the last villain. I think, by this point in the franchise, people regard, Leatherface as the iconic face of the franchise, even though there's only one other movie, but still, Leatherface is the icon of this series. So it's cool to see Chop Top kind of get that main event spot. But yeah, he ends up chasing Stretch up the tower where, as I mentioned before, the grandmother's corpse is now staying. Looks completely different. It is what it is. And speaking of corpses, by the way, I didn't mention this. I love Lefty running throughout the underground layer with his chainsaw, just bring it all down, and he's fucking he's chainsawing the pillars of this layer. Somehow they don't hear him throughout the entire time of him running around this underground big layer screaming, but whatever. I loved that, but I loved that he comes across the corpse of Franklin, the kid in the wheelchair, his nephew, or whatever he is to him. Pretty sure he's his nephew. But we get to kind of see the detail of what Leatherface did to Franklin, and he fucking, it's kind of spotty to see on his chest and his arms and stuff, But we see that his skull is like, there's just this huge chainsaw gash in his fucking skull. Because that's all that's really left of him at this point is a skeleton. And yeah, so it's clear to say that at one point, Leatherface just drove his chainsaw right through Franklin's fucking face. It's like, oh shit. But yeah, so it was cool to kind of see that emotional side of Lefty and be like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely killing these motherfuckers. He already knew he was, but once he actually saw Franklin's corpse, he's like, yep, they're dying. But anyways, so we get to see grandmother's corpse who has a chainsaw. She's gripping a chainsaw. And I love the chase sequence up to the room where he's cutting her legs with this little blade and he's trying to fucking... Yeah, he's trying to, like, tug her off. She keeps kicking him. At one point, she actually kicks him in the face, and he kind of swings out, and he's just dangling there. One thing, I love how they handled Chop Top as far as his athleticism is concerned, because, crazy or not, he was in Vietnam. He was trained to be a soldier, and it's clear here, because he's easily, like... He's fucking insanely athletic. Like, he's super strong. He's super quick. Much like a soldier would be. So, yeah, he's fucking nuts. But he still has that training, you know? And he even mentions it, like, in the... He starts going, like, at one point in the radio station, he's like, non-flashback, and all this shit. But, yeah, it was cool to see him being able to just pull himself up on stuff and jump out. It's like, yeah, this dude's a fucking freak, man. But yeah, they get in there. She rips the chainsaw out of the dead grandmother's hands. And obviously Chop Top is distraught by this. And he's like checking on his dead grandma to make sure she's okay. Like, I'm pretty sure she's far from okay, bud. But whatever. And she ends up... she's trying to start up this fucking chainsaw that's like ages old. And I think it's been proven that by that point gasoline would be useless in a chainsaw at that point. But... whatever. She's trying to start it up, and he just keeps chopping at her back for like a crazy amount of time while she's trying to start this thing up. It's like, okay, one of you just needs to fucking get it over with, because this is crazy. He's just standing there doing it while she's revving it, and it goes on for like what feels like 5 minutes. She finally gets it, and Chop Top's backing up, and she fucking nails him in the gut with the chainsaw. He stumbles out and falls out of the fucking... tower into, he kind of like does like a toilet bowl thing and just falls into like this tube back down into the remains of the lair. And then we get, you know, Stretch doing the Leatherface, which is completely forced, but she just lifts up the chainsaw and is doing like the Leatherface dance from the end of the first one, and that is how the second one ends. Yeah, this movie's fucking insane. It sucks because, like I said, there were some ideas that I think really, really work very, very well. But, just overall, man, I think this movie was a complete misfire. I can enjoy it for what it is, but, man, it's just... it's not too great, and as any seasoned horror vet knows, it doesn't get much better from here. So we are on the bumpy road of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. We are in it. We are in it 100%. We will be reviewing Leatherface Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 at another point in time, but for right now, that is the ending to the review portion of this video. But you know what we gotta do now, baby. We gotta get into the blood, the guts, and the gory bits. We gotta get into my kill of the film. Stick around. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is a circus of a horror movie. It's like the best way I can describe it. Absolutely nuts, off the wall, just pedal to the metal throughout the entire fucking movie. And there's part of me that loves it for that reason and part of me that hates it, but overall, I enjoy the movie. It's not a great follow-up to the original, but if you're getting a couple buddies around, you want to just have fun and watch a fucking crazy horror film, I don't see you going wrong with Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I don't hate the movie, but I don't love it. What I do love, though, is the fact that we get some fucking crazy gore in this one. At one point, as I mentioned in the review, we literally have guts spewing out of the wall like a faucet or a spigot or whatever I said. You know, shit that fires out water. You know what I mean. Just fucking blowing chunks of blood and guts and all this crazy shit. Leatherface getting a chainsaw through the fucking gut was brutal. That's not what overall kills him, but he's not gonna make it through that, I would think. And he doesn't. But yeah, crazy shit there. We get Jim Seadog, Jim Seadow getting a chainsaw to the ass cheeks. Fucking Chop Top gets it in the gut. Lefty. Fucking LG gets brutalized in this movie. I didn't even mention the fact. Holy shit! How did I not mention? I totally realized. I totally glanced over this in the review. So I'm sorry, but we're gonna go over it here real quick. When he gets skinned, they take his face off and they take his arm off, and after after Leatherface fucking gets done dancing with a now freshly LG'd faced Stretch, LG fucking gets up. LG is alive and well. He gets up. This motherfucker does not have a face. And, you know, it's clear that he's in pain. It's clear that he's not doing too hot. But he's fucking alive. I'm like, how are you even remotely alive? Like, at the very least, you should be in a coma right now, dude. You got 15 good hammer shots to the dome, baby. Plus, half of your fucking skin is no longer on your body. You should be deader than dead. But he's alive. He gets brutalized in this movie. I can't believe I didn't even fucking mention that in the review. I apologize. But yeah, man. I guess this movie scattered my fucking brain. But LG gets a lot of brutal shit done to him, and there's a lot of brutal fucking kills in this movie. I shouldn't say there's a lot. I think that's an overstatement. You know, there's some really good, solid stuff in this movie, but I think as far as gore and the kills are concerned, I gotta give it to that opening kill of the driver, that dumbass fucking college kid who's fucking with the Sawyers. We don't see the cut actually happen, really, but we see his buddy looks back at him and his skull has just been sawed this way. So, like, the top half of his skull is, like, slowly, like, falling off of his face, or off of his head, and finally you get it where it just kind of pops off and all his brain is all exposed and there's blood fucking spewing everywhere. Absolutely fucking brutal. Crazy, outrageous. He's like doing this and shit. Like, awesome. Doesn't get much better than that. It's a shame that they blow their blood load a little early in the film, but it is what it is. Overall, man, I enjoy the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 for what it is, but as far as a follow-up, not great. But yeah, man, overall, that'll do it for this video, guys. Thank you, as always, for stopping by and supporting the channel, supporting the dream. And yeah, man, without further ado, thank you, guys. Take care of each other, take care of yourselves, and keep watching horror. All right, guys, have a good day.